Okay, although I do make most of my pocket price bands using the sum-if equations, formulas that I just showed you, I do want to make sure that I do point out that Excel does have a built-in histogram chart creator. So you can use that, but as I mentioned previously, one of the downsides of that is that you can't actually weight your histogram by any of your other marketing variables. So for instance, if you wish to weight it by the amount of pocket revenue of your transactions, you're not actually able to do that because the built-in histogram chart, it simply counts occurrences, frequency. It will let you know, for instance, for what we're going to do, it will let you know how many transactions have a specific gross profit margin, but it doesn't actually let you know how much revenue is within that bin or that bucket of transactions. So, but let's just dive right in. So because we are going to be graphing here the gross profit margin, these are the numbers that we're concerned about with this example. You just need to highlight this entire column of data. So I'm just going to go right down here at the bottom, just Control Shift up, and I'm not even going to highlight the header, just the data itself. And once you have your data highlighted, just go under the Insert menu, under Charts, and there will be a Insert Statistical Chart option, and you have a histogram option underneath that menu. And as you can see, your histogram just pops right out like this. Now there are a couple of things here that are a little different. And here, let's make those modifications before we start to compare and contrast here. First of all, down here at the very bottom, these are the actual bins that you have for this chart. And you'll see that the lower bound is actually a parenthesis. The upper bound is actually a bracket. The bracket indicating that it includes that value, with the parenthesis indicating that it goes up to but does not include that value. So let's see, the very first thing in order to get this chart matching more of what we created before is if you right click the axis, there is a format axis option that you can select. So select that, and then that gives you access to all the different options that you can adjust here with your histogram. This by category, we'll skip that because we don't have any categories in this data set. We just have the gross margin. So that's the only thing we're concerned about here. You can't adjust the bin width. With the prior example, our bin width was 10% or 0.10. So we'll just put that in, 0.1. And just like that, you can see we got into, these are now 10 percentage point bins. And what I'm going to do is it does also have the option to, if you want to just throw everything below a certain value into a single bucket, there is an underflow bin. And you can also do the same thing at the top, the rightmost edge of your histogram if you wish to do an overflow. So we'll do an underflow bin, and we'll make it right here at 0. So because our bin width is 0.1, that means that all of our bins should be in 10 percentage point increments, which, as you can see, they absolutely are now. So yeah, from 0 to 10%, 10 to 20, and so on, just all the way across the line. Let's see, so let's get this lined up here, just so we can start to see differences that we have between one histogram we created and the other. And let's see, you can, adjust the title, go ahead and add some axis labels there. But what I'm more interested in here for this example is I want you to just take a look at what the overall shape is of these two histograms. And I want you to, just recognize the fact that they do not have the exact same shape. And that is despite the fact that they both have the exact same bins. So what's going on here? Well, what is happening is that the bottom chart, the chart we just created using the built-in histogram chart, this is actually measuring the frequencies, the number of occurrences, the number of transactions there are in the data set that appear within the bin specified. So the top chart, the first one we created, keep in mind that this is all showing percentage of pocket revenue. So within each of these bins, that's the amount of pocket revenue that's being that's captured within that bin, represented. So down here on the bottom, on the other hand, we actually have those frequencies. And here, just to be thorough, let's just add that in there. Frequency on the vertical, and we'll just call that bins on the bottom. You could also just do gross profit margin bins. Yeah, we'll just call it gross profit margin to have it match our first chart. And what this tells you is that, for instance, here you may, in this bottom chart, you may see, oh, wow, we have a lot of transactions with a negative gross profit margin. That's not good. But, and it's true, there are, 803 of these items here in this very first bin. But when you look at the actual amount of revenue, pocket revenue here, you can see that it's actually a very small amount. What is that? 1.035%. So very small amount here. So that's why it's so incredibly important that you do pay attention to what it is you're actually measuring and displaying, because you can see how the shape of the distribution changes just because we change what we're measuring. So just make sure that you are paying attention to that.